Good morning, traders. Happy Friday. I'm Sandra with Trading Made Simple, and let's get to the hot stocks today. So, on our daily watch list, I really want you to identify what the text says. A lot of people, they just want to look at the stocks and see what the levels are, but they're not reading the forecasting. And so I want to read it out loud, and then we'll get to maybe some programming of some stocks that are on the move. Good morning. Once again, we find ourselves inside of this range. For those of you that are experienced, we have been consolidating and it's just going nowhere quick. We are also inside of yesterday's bar. Yesterday's bar meaning inside of the range of yesterday, right? As well, our expectations continue to remain low. That could give you an idea. Hey, instead of sitting in front of my computer, I can automate my trades and go out and have a good time. Or you could do automation each and every day and not have to sit in front of your computer. You guys know I'm an automation freak. All right, so under yesterday's low at 56.82 would open up the door for shorts. Okay, and then the lower range is 56.50. So they're giving you the range here on SPX. SPX is one of a great indicator, right, to see what the market's doing because it's got all the high-flying stocks in there. Longs would only be appealing if we spike below those lows and end up holding. Now, that's an interesting concept, right? He says longs would be appealing if we spike below the lows. And the reason is because we would then be expecting a bounce. So a lot of people not really thinking how price action works, but there's an ebb in the flow of the market. And so they're identifying that for you. So reading the analysis, I believe, is really important and can really help you with your skills as a trader as you start looking at charts and wondering about analysis. All right. So as we take a look at that, let's take a look at some stocks. So we're giving you 3 stocks today, ABNB, Tesla, and Apple. And you can see here, it's saying, hey, if 125.83 holds, then our target is 127 and 128.50. If we break below 125, we could be looking at 124 and 122.84. So let's just look at the charts and go over it. But let's take a look at AB and go from there. ABNB actually holding its own today, right? Yeah. SPY and QQQ is down several dollars, and ABNB holding its own. You could see momentum on a 15-minute. Momentum is breaking above the zero line. Looks like we did a gap fill. We came back down and we're testing our 20 EMA on a 15-minute. I usually like to see the 15-minute and 1 hour for shorts, but this is really more of a day trade, right? These levels could hold longer. But if you're looking for just something to automate as an example, you could then maybe use some of these. So ABNP, we were looking for longs above 125.83. And we're getting close. Look at this, guys. We're at 125.79. So how would we do this? It's basically saying you could see an hourly. Let me go to a smaller time frame. Do you see where this gap is? Okay, so I have a gap finder as an indicator, and this gap finder easily identifies the gap from this morning. A gap means where did we close yesterday and where did we open up? And if there's a separation from where we closed and where we opened up, that's a gap. Why is that important to see on your chart? Because oftentimes price will want to fill the gap. You knowing that could help you. So as we take a look at this, you can see that we already filled the gap. And there's a saying, it's called gap and go, right? You hit the gap, you filled it, and then you're keep going bullish, which is you hit the gap, ceiling, and then you just make a U-turn. And that's exactly what we did. But what I see right now is that we're actually retesting this, right? We're retesting the gap. Now, knowing that ABNBs, our analysts said, hey, 125.83 is the level. We just passed it, by the way, guys. 125.83. We could go for a long. Now, what I'm looking at is I see the gap, and I really want a gap and go. Why? If we just come back up and go to 126.13 again and come back down, right? Then it's still a gap and crap. We still need momentum behind us. But as I'm looking at this on a 15-minute chart and I see that we broke above the zero line on momentum, our analyst gave you an important level of 125.83. Of course, that's not considering the gap, but we know we have that gap. So what I can do is just say, hey, I can program something that says anything above today's high, get me into a long call. Why? Because today's high is a strategy. Anytime throughout the day you break the high or you break today's low is a strategy. You break that level of support or resistance and you're taking that same direction. So in this sense right here, I'm going to say, or let's see if I have time to program something. And by the way, when I hover my mouse over a candle, I'm looking right here. These levels tell me the open, the high, the low, the close, okay? And so when I put my pointer mouse right on the candle, it's showing me that the high is 126.13. So could I make an automated order and say 126.25 for ABNB? I'm going on for a long call. Absolutely. Let's do it. So we're going to go here and let's give us 7 days out. Okay. Let's see here. Is there a reason why this is not? Thank you. Could I take a debit spread? Absolutely. If your account authorizes you to take debit spreads, you could take a debit spread. It's less risk and less reward, gives you diamond hands to hold through a losing position or a sideways position. And we know there's a lot of consolidation, right? So real quick, speaking of consolidation, what is next week's move? Well, I have this indicator on my chart that's showing me that next week's high could be 130. All right. Well, now that we go back to the trade tab, if we wanted to take this, right, we could say, all right, 127, 128, how much is that going to cost me? That'll cost me $43 for one. And how much would I be making? Your max loss is $43. Your max profit is $57. So this kind of identifies that you're not going to be making a whole bunch of money, but you're also not going to be losing a whole bunch of money. Now let's go over to a single and do the same thing and say, okay, if I get over to the 127 call, which is basically an at the money call, that's $212. How much money could I lose? $212, right? Versus the $40 or whatever. Now, of course, when I say, hey, what's my profit? It says infinite, but we already know it's not going to be infinite. We just have to look at our trade tab. And if you look right over here, you could see that our expected move for the week is 5 points, 5.165, right? So if our expected move is 5 points, it gives you an expectation to identify, hey, what are the odds right here of this past 5 points? Not very high. The market makers are pretty good at their pricing. So that's why this platform right here is modern, right? It's really giving you all the tools that you really need. You don't have to do a whole lot of math here. So with 5 points, we could go longer here. So I'm really liking, honestly, we just get into this long call and see how it does today and then make an adjustment, or we could set our risk defined as is. So let's go ahead and do that. And by the way, guys, if you're interested in spread trading, you just need authorization, which I think is interesting because remember I said that a debit spread is less risk, less reward. You would think your broker would want you to do that versus, a max loss on the $212 contract. But they really want you to recognize that option contracts are speculative, okay? That's what the brokers want to know. They want to know how big is your account size? Do you have any education or experience trading? And then what is that experience? So, a lot of people don't take into account they have a 401k, and, investing in the stock market since they've had a job when they were 18 years old. But they don't really think of that as experience, but it is experience, right? You're making investment decisions for yourself. And aren't you making an investment decision when you're buying a long call or a long put or a debit spread? So just remember that options are speculative, right? And you're really looking, aggressive growth. Anything speculative, traders are looking for excessive growth. And then also, you know what your risk amount right now. So as we take a look at the chart right here, let's take a look and see where we're going. Wow. So we have a consolidation band on a 5-minute here. And so we broke today's high, which was right here. This is great that it's all happening live as we're talking about it, right? We were going to create a strategy, but it's just happening as we talk about it. And we said, hey, look, the probabilities of ABNB going higher when we break today's high is a higher probability trade. That's why it's a strategy that everybody knows about. Not secret sauce, just common knowledge in the trading industry. So we hit 126.06 and we went higher to 126.60. Holy moly, should we have already gotten into this long call? The answer is yes. But what's your risk amount going to be? So if I go over here and I say, hey, buy custom, let's go ahead and put in our risk amount and our take profit. Now remember, let's see, on our thing, it was 127.75. So let's go ahead and use that as our target, 127.75. We're going to go right over here and we're going to say mark greater than, and we're going to put 127.75 and tab out of the box. And then you can read your programming right here. And we don't know what the option price is going to be. So we're letting this be limit. Look at this little icon right here. That looks new, by the way. We're going to say sell the bid. And this is always going to be 0, 0. It's going a little slow because I think I have all my programs running here all at the same time. So now we have this going in. We did take this for a week out to give us some time. And the reason is because, today is expiration and it's also witching. So there could be a lot of volatility at the end of the day. That could be positive for ABNB because we just got a gap and go while we were live too, right? And remember what I said, if it breaks above today's high, that's also a strategy. So you have a lot of things in trading, they call it confluence. In the police world, we call it supporting evidence, right? It helps you to create what your analysis is of a situation, right? And so that's what this is. So we're going to sell the bid. We have it as day here. I'm going to change this to good to cancel. It won't let me. But the good thing is that you could do that from the front here. So I'm going to say good till cancel. Now, what's going to be my loss? Well, we knew that 125.83 was basically an entry point. For us, it was around 126, 50. We could use that level and program it the same way we did for our take profit. Or we can just say, you know what? I want to use a trigger. You see how I use that little button right here and it's got a trigger. And I can say, hey, if I lose 15% as an example, or 25%, I'm going to give it some room and say 25%, then I want to get out of this position. Okay. So now we know that all of a sudden, if this turns around and we call this either a gap and go or a gap and crap, right? So if this just broke through the ceiling and then tricked everybody and comes back down, I'm out of here. So that is how you would set up a trade. You could see that this needs to also be good till cancel before you get the confirmation that you can do this. So now let's take a look at the chart really quick because I'm ready to rock and roll with this. Of course, we missed that awesome entry. We were talking about it live. And you know what? I really like that it's coming back to retest this 126.46 level. So let's go ahead and get this going. So now we're going to go ahead and I just got filled on that long call. And that's how you can identify, right, what we have on our daily watch list. By the way, new SKOOL community for trading made simple, very inexpensive, a couple cups of coffee a month, and you could get our daily watch list along with other trade ideas, right? So we give one out every day. I don't really like day trading. I don't promote it as consistent, profitable. I do believe that swing trades are better for more profitable, consistent income. But if you're an automator and you're just practicing, because it takes, 30 to 45 trades for you to be like a master at automation, these types of watch lists could really help you kind of sharpen your skills because we're giving you specific levels for you to just automate. And then you can see how good they are. Now, I have members that tell me that they are doing really well with their automations with the daily watch list, and that's awesome. But we love these day trade recommendations because there are so many people out there that really love to day trade. Just hope that you can do it with automation versus manually sitting at your screen all day, not taking advantage of a beautiful day outside. All right. So that was one of our trades. Let's take a look at Tesla. Where's Tesla right now? 236.50. Let's take a look. Oh, this ABNB looking good. Let's take a look at Tesla right now. Oh, Tesla. Tesla breaking today, right? Tesla breaking today's high. Actually looking good. If I hover over that bar, it says 243 and 93 was today's high. You could say, hey, I'd like a retest of the last pivot high, which is right here at 243.91. Let me show you how to program that. So you're wanting something to come down and retest. So let me just talk. So the better trade is the better trade when we actually break out of a zone or when we come and retest it. Believe it or not, the better, more profitable trade is for you to wait for it to come and retest that area of resistance that it broke through, for you then to now go long. Because price always wants to break through a level, come back and test it, make sure it holds, and then takes off. This gives you a really good risk versus reward on your trade. So here we're going to say, as an example, if Tesla comes down to 243.89, it says, I'm going to say 243.80. Let's go over to the trade tab. We're going to do 7 days out. We're going to do this on a debit spread, and we're going to do a 243 right here. And you could see that's $108 for one of these in, let me make sure I got the right one. I went for a put. Did you notice that? Let me go over here. 243. There we go. Got the calls. That's what we're looking for, right? Let's give it a little bit of room. 243. 243. Let's do 243.95. 243.95. We're getting into that debit spread. All right. Let's go back. 243.95. So we're going to come down here and we're going to just click, click, click. Remember, we need price to come down. 43.95. Tab out. And we're going to buy the ask. We're going to be aggressive buyers, but we're not going to pay them extra. And we don't know what the option contract is going to be. So that's why we always do 0.0. I'm going to save it. And then here, I'm going to put till cancel, okay? This right here, let me just make sure that that is correct. Yep. This should be by the ask, actually. So if this said man, if you ever have any computer issues, you can always change it on the front end. That's the interesting thing about the order form. You can change all of this on the front end. You can't do any of this, right, on the front end. That's why we have to go in the gear icon to program it. So now I'm going to hit save. And now I have this, and I'm saying, hey, if this goes back down to test 243.95, which was the last pivot high, then we're going to get into a long call. Now, does that mean that it's going to? No. But 80% of the time, price will generally come back down, touch it, and then bounce. So that is if you have patience. If you don't have patience, you have automation that has patience. You can identify the strategy. We're identifying an A+ trade because we're waiting to come back down, test support at 243.95, and then take a bounce. Will it? We don't know. Now, you're going to have to watch. The nice thing is we have a week out. So, if this ends up going over the weekend, seeing what happens on Monday, etc., you'll manage it, right? A debit spread moves a lot slower than a long call, long put. On a debit spread, because of the new switchover from TDA to Schwab, they have done some adjustments. And I've noticed that on debit spreads as well as credit spreads, any spread, by the way, guys, any spread, if you have a stop loss in place, it will get triggered a lot quicker, even if your position is making money. And it's only because of the volatility right at the open. So because of that, you may want to just not have a stop loss at the open, wait 15 minutes, then set your stop loss for the day if you're heading out to go enjoy the sunshine. All right, guys. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you have a nice one. If you want to get some trade ideas, we also, by the way, give out some option flow as well. That is great for swing trades. We're letting you know with the institutions what strike price they're buying, the expiration date, and as well as if it's a call or a put. So these types of trades as well, you can automate them and identify your stop loss as well as your profit target. Sometimes it's just as easy. Get me out with a 20% profit and get me out with a 20% stop loss. So it looks like right now we're not getting a retest. We may not, but that's okay. I'm waiting for the A+ setup, and you can do that too with automation. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. By the way, want to learn more about our services? My contact is in the